Hello.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Ripley Soprano. I'm the publisher of Dirty Magazine, and I'm here in the studio at Xpizza with my friend and colleague. Someone was like, "Who's that?" Oh, it was Kelly Catron was like, "Who's that other girl?" Who's the other girl? I was like, "Oh, my business partner Magdalena," and she was like, "Who's the other girl?" I was like, my other colleague, Brynn Michaels, who is OG New York nightlife personality and adult film star, newly minted Brazzers star, and a good friend, very, very good friend of Dirty Magazine. And we're here in the studio to talk some shit, and she's going to play us some of her favorite grindcore music. Clearly, I know a lot about this genre, but I'm very excited to learn. I listened to some of her favorite new music this morning, and I was very stoked about it. But yeah, so maybe we can start with just one that you like, and then we can do some talking, and then we can listen to more music. Do you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, I'm Brynn Michaels. I have like playlists, but I don't have like a song like picked out. Like
Play fuck CAA or fuck whatever.
the song that I sent you.
Yeah,
earlier.
exactly.
Okay. Well,
Tell us a little bit. Yeah, tell us a little bit about this band and like why you like them.
okay. So I was researching more Asian grindcore bands because, like, obviously, there's a shit ton of them, and like Chopin is always playing in New York, and then like Wormrod is kind of OG, and I was looking for other ones because those are two of my favorites, and I found this Indian band. What the fuck are they called? What's Heathen Beast? And the way that they like incorporate classical Indian style music is really different and weird. And even though all of grindcore is weird and like supposed to alienate like the majority of people, and it does a really good job at that, I like even like just like weirder kind of grindcore, like stuff that makes it like different and not just like relentless sound.
So what qualifies as grindcore?
It's kind of like a hard. I mean, grindcore is like distinguished by blast beats. Like it's distinguished by the style of drumming. It's like really, really fast blast beats, like as fast as you can do it. Blast beats aren't like particular like only in grindcore. They like have like roots in like punk and like death metal, but grindcore takes it kind of farther and is a little bit noisy sometimes. Like it's kind of just like when you like recognize it when you hear it. But it's often like really politically motivated, as opposed to like death metal, or like if you're talking like different genres within grindcore, you have like gore grind or like porn grind or like whatever, like different subgenres. That's more like style of vocals and like lyrics, but like grindcore like traditionally is pretty politically motivated, and this band is like also like incredibly politically motivated, like about Indian politics, which I don't fucking know anything about, but the music's fucking rad.
Yeah, you want to play your first song from this? What is it? Heathen Beast.
Heathen Beast.
Cool. Yeah, I think if you just hit play, it should work.
It's not working.
But I think.
It's not connected to it. Maybe different channel.
Oh yeah. One moment, we're just experiencing some technical difficulties while we adjust to this new system. Here we go. Cool. So right now you're listening to Bees and Bees, and you can find this on Spotify. Wow. That's really something. Thank you for sharing. Um, so yeah, what is, you're kind of known as a connoisseur of various types of metal music, and I know that people see you out sometimes. How did you get into this genre?
Um, I think that grindcore is kind of what a lot of people graduate to when they have been like listening to metal or like grew up listening. Like I grew up listening to like deathcore because I was born in the late 90s. So like people are like so embarrassed to like deathcore because it's like fucking gay and like mall metal, you know? But like that's what I grew up listening to. So it's like breakdowns mixed with like really intense drums and sort of like death metal vocals. So I grew up listening to that, and then you kind of like want things that are more extreme, and it kind of just gets more and more like hard to listen to in a fun way. Like to someone who doesn't like this kind of music, I think it probably all sounds the same. But then like if you're a little bit more inclined to it or whatever, you kind of understand like more of the nuances and like yeah, you just kind of like graduate into more extreme forms. I think that's like really normal for people to just like increasingly like step up how extreme the shit they're into gets, and this is kind of like the top.
Yeah, it's like using the highest setting of the vibrator or whatever.
Yeah.
In terms of like losing sensitivity to like certain
It's hard to go back
genres, and
down.
then you're right. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to kind of like wean yourself off and then start over.
Yeah.
What was the first like grindcore band that you remember really getting into?
That's a really hard question. I don't really know. Um, I think that there are like elements of grindcore in like Sepultura and like other kind of huge bands, Mortician. There's like grindcore elements in bands that don't necessarily like classify themselves as grindcore. Um, and then those bands often like play with grindcore bands because they are into grindcore, that whatever, because there are elements in their music. And then I don't really know what like band that classifies themselves as grindcore I was first into. That would like take me a second to think about. I mean, like Napalm Death. I don't know, like kind of the big dogs.
Do you want to play some for us?
Okay, I don't even have any on this playlist.
Maybe we have to do a little searcheroo.
Like I don't.
Just so that people can can get into it through what you got into it for. Like yeah. I think it's a good.
Okay, I can play like.
Yeah,
can
people in
play, like-
studio are like, what the fuck are we listening to right now?
Napalm. Okay, yeah. Napalm Death is kind of like attributed to like inventing grindcore. They didn't, but like Repulsion and other like more kind of hardcore bands kind of more led the way into it. But I think that Napalm Death is attributed for like the name or something. I don't fucking know. They're kind of given the crown for it. So this is Scum by Napalm Death.
And you were listening to. Yo, this is fire. Whoa, damn, cool. Well, okay, so Youngblood Gary, my production assistant, just showed up and he's nerding out with Brynn about this genre. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing these rad tunes. So if someone was to see you at a show like this, how would you want them to act? What's like the best, the best case scenario of like someone recognizes you and you're obviously both lovers of grindcore. What's the correct way to approach you or not approach you?
I think you need to like do some like internal, just like are you good looking? It's like are you, if you're really like, there's just like you need to like look into yourself and be like, okay, am I like weird? Am I gonna make this girl feel weird? And if you're like weird, I'm like, you say hi. If you're like hot, like I like tequila sodas that don't have roofies in them. And I'm single. But if you're like weird, I look through my DMs after I go out, because I do like find people, become friends with people that like are into the same stuff as me and like see me out and like don't say anything, which is like also a really acceptable thing to do.
That's why I said also things not to do, like things to do and not do.
Yeah, there's like a lot of people like really don't know what to say. And like if you don't know what to say, like don't say anything. Like yeah, this kind of like weird thing of like, oh, like hey, like I recognize you. I don't like know where from. Like yeah, you do. DM me on Instagram. You know my Instagram. Like like you're being weird and you're like trying to make me say like, "Oh my god, yeah, I shoot porn." Like that's weird. I'm not going to say that. Like be normal and don't be like, where have I seen you?" That's weird. It's scary.
Yeah, frightening to exactly. So yeah, so that's a good pro tip. Like if you see a girl that you recognize, you may or may not shoot pornography.
Girls see their DMs. Girls, like, it doesn't matter how many followers these girls have, they look through their DM requests. I guarantee to you, I know girls with millions of followers that look through their DM requests. We have a phone addiction. We all have phone addictions, and we like attention. We're seeing it. Like, we might not respond to you because you might be weird, but we're seeing it. So
are you saying shoot your shot in the DMs, or you're saying like if you're polite?
Shoot your shot in the DMs. If you're good looking, you'll get a response, maybe.
Nice. Hell yeah. So you said that a lot of people in your position have phone addictions. How are you dealing with your phone addiction and various self-care techniques in this trying time?
This is so upsetting. I can't believe you're calling me out when you know this is a problem for me.
I just think that our audience could actually relate. Like, I think that this is something that is not just affecting, really beautiful women on the internet. I think that this is something that those of us who are not maybe as pretty can identify with.
I muted like 90% of the women I follow because they're pretty and I don't like it. No, I just don't like, I don't like seeing what other people in my industry are doing, because it makes me feel like a sense of urgency that I need to be doing what they're doing or something of similar caliber. And I think you have to like kind of reflect on why you're posting certain things, why you're doing certain things. Am I doing this for like my fan base? That's productive. Like if you're like, I'm going to take hot pics today for my fans, like that's productive. If you're like, I'm going to take hot pics today so that my peers know that I'm working, that's like not productive. And everyone on the internet's fucking lying. It's all fucking smoke and mirrors. And even knowing that, it still bothers me. Like even knowing that, I'm still like constantly questioning like where I should be at and like what I should be doing. So I've muted fucking everybody. I don't watch stories anymore. Stories are the worst. I don't need to know what you're
They just go on forever, yeah.
I don't need to know what you're doing. Like, it's like fucking Facebook. Like, I don't need to know what you ate for lunch. Like, it's just fucking weird. And so I'm not doing stories. I'm not really scrolling.
This is kind of the harm reduction method of an internet addiction.
Yeah, like if I and when I am scrolling, like I was scrolling through Riley Reid's husband today, Pasha or whatever, because he does these like gymnastic tricks. He's like
That sounds cute.
And I found myself like my timer on my phone went off that was like you've been on Instagram for 1 hour, and I was like, well, not only on his page for the hour, but I was like, does this spark joy? And then I was like, yeah, I'm like watching this and enjoying it. I'm not watching this and being like, I fucking hate myself. So I kept going. I was like, fuck this timer. I'm vibing. You know?
So besides the phone stuff, like what are you doing to expand your conception of joy on a day-to-day?
Taught myself how to knit today.
Really? What are you knitting and how is that going?
I'm knitting a scarf for my dog.
Oh, you have a dog. Wow, damn. Tell us about your dog. What's his name? What does he like to do?
You're acting like you're not the father of my dog. My dog's name is Buckley, and he likes to sleep. He also likes to dig through the trash. And he likes to fuck stuffed animals.
Okay. That took an interesting turn. So do you think that he has like an actual sexuality?
No. I think it's a reflex. I don't actually think my dog's horny, but like he humps more than other dogs, and I don't really know what to call that, other than like he's misfire. Yeah, it's like he has an itch he's scratching, but it's like his penis.
But he's also neutered, right?
Of course, I'm a responsible dog owner.
I see. But if it wasn't like legal, was that something that you would still do? Like illegal to not have your dog neutered?
It was sad for me to get his balls chopped off because they looked like little cotton balls because they were so small and they were so fluffy and he was so cute and they were just like these tiny little fluffy. They looked like a craft, like it's something that you would put on like a fucking dollhouse or something. They were so cute, but I mean I like taking him to meet other dogs and I don't want to worry about him like. I don't want to have a bunch of puppies that I have to deal with. They smell bad, and then you have to find them homes, or you end up keeping all of them and having a problem.
Right. Yeah. And you had a lot of pets as a kid, right? So for those who don't know, Brynn grew up in Texas, and had a lot of. She actually walked in, and the first thing that she said was, "These are rat holes in my shirt." And I was like, rat holes? What do you mean? She said, when I was in high school, I've had this shirt since middle school. And when I was in middle school, my rats, like, sorry, I just looked in, like, I'm like, there was a nip slip. The rats ate through her shirt, chewed little holes in her shirt. No big deal. Tell us about being a rat owner and how you came to love animals.
We had a lot of pets because my mom couldn't say no. And my boyfriend of the time and we got put on some kind of wait list for baby rats at like PetSmart. I don't even know how that or why that exists, but we got called because they accidentally had a litter. They gave us 2 rats. They were supposed to both be boys, and then one of them was pregnant all of a sudden. Elvira, her name was then changed to Elvira, and she was pregnant as shit. And once we like discovered she was pregnant, we like took really good care of her, and we had this whole like prenatal system for her, and it was very cute. But then obviously she had to get separated from Throckmorton, her husband, because he was going to eat her children. So I got another wire cage for her, and then I separated the boys and the girls. And they kept fucking through the wires of the cages. And And so then I kept getting more pregnant rats. And then at one point I had like 25 rats.
25 is a lot. That's a lot. So would you self-identify as a rat girl?
No. What
Okay.
the fuck?
Did you have cats or dogs growing up, and do you have a preference?
I had so many of both. My mom could not stop.
You just had like a whole house full of animals, like kind of hoarder style.
No, not fucking hoarder style, but we had like 3 dogs growing up, and and 2 of the dogs were like brought home from Mexico by my mom's boyfriend, and they were just like dogs that he found in Mexico and then like brought up here. And my mom was like, oh my god, like I can't, like I have to keep it. I am a codependency problem. So then we ended up with all these fucking dogs, but it was like 3 dogs, and then we had like 1 cat, and then we had a couple cats, and now my mom has 5 cats. But she only has 1 dog now. Rest in peace, Phoebe.
Oh, Phoebe. So you mentioned that you have a codependency issue. We're doing stream of consciousness interviewing. No, I think it's interesting and similar to the internet addiction thing is something that a lot of people I know like deal with regardless of who they are, you know. So I know that you're a big advocate of therapy and other means of like working on oneself. Do you have any advice for anyone who's dealing with like codependency related compulsions? Why are you making a face? I could go on my own. Yeah.
I don't know. If anyone has any advice, please DM me. No, I think therapy is really good. And having a friend who's been through CODA is helpful. You kind of have to like look up like what signs of codependency are. But I think like if you have relationships that don't feel good, or like you can't stop hanging out with someone, but like you don't really like hanging out with them, like these sorts of like things that you're like I'm not actively enjoying this, but I somehow can't stop or feel really weird when it's like time to go home or whatever. Like just like listening to yourself and listening to like what is making you feel anxious.
Like developing good boundaries and stuff.
Well, like knowing, like you have to first identify like what is codependency, you know? Like what are like the codependent habits that, you know, that I'm exhibiting, like, you know.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Oh wow, we have some new friends in the room. But we're gonna take a brief break for some from chatting for some more grindcore and perhaps a cigarette break.
I know what I want to play. So I'm really obsessed with this band. I saw them live recently. They opened up for Exhumed at the Meadows, and it's a girl-fronted grindcore band. I don't know if they like identify as grindcore, but like it's grindcore. I think that they identify as like hardcore with blast beats, but like that's grindcore.
Tell them.
But homegirl in the band's really hot. Tom in the band was my wingman at the show. I didn't get laid, but he tried. And they're really, really good. Shout out Tom for trying to get me laid. Yeah, they're really fucking good. I think that homegirl calls it like twerking, like twerk provoking grindcore, and she's really entertaining to watch. So
I like that tagline. Yeah. So play when you're ready.
It's playing.
Ooh. Wow, that was Cliffhanger from.
Escuela Grind. That's a different song.
Oh, okay. All right, all right. Cool. Well, I would love to ask you more about growing up in Texas if you're down to go there.
Okay.
Okay, so you're from Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it like there, and what was your favorite part about growing up in Austin, and your least favorite thing?
Well, growing up, I pretty much had free reign. Bad parents. No, I don't know. I went to a lot of shows by myself. And back then, nowadays it's kind of not as good. The venues are kind of whack. The shows are expensive. It's a lot of like boot cut jean 70s stuff, which is like good, but it's kind of like overly taking over. Back when I was like growing up, like or like 12 through like I don't know, like 15. No, I think Emos was the venue that I went to all the fucking time. And they played all like these fucking silly deathcore shows. So when I was like a little scene girl, I was going to all these deathcore shows, and it was really rad. Like, it was a really sick venue, and the music scene, like, there was always these like crazy metal bands coming through. Of course, my taste was like a little bit silly because I was a fucking kid, but that was probably my favorite thing about growing up there was just like always having access to live music. And like, yeah, like downtown over there is like fucking weird. And yeah, so that was a good part of it. I don't really, like the worst part about growing up there. Jesus Christ.
You don't actually have to answer that if you don't want.
I mean, I don't know. It's just like it's like a small city surrounded by a lot of suburbs. So, bye. So, it's a lot of drugs and a lot of like everybody kind of just dies like pretty young in Austin. It's pretty brutal. And that's a negative.
Right. Yeah, and we've talked a lot about like your sort of interest in harm reduction coming from your experience losing a lot of friends very young, and your own experience with substance stuff. Do you want to riff on that at all?
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, I mean, people started dropping pretty early, around like 17. It was kind of like domino effect. People started dropping, but yeah, my interest in harm reduction stemmed really from meeting you, Ripley, and getting more involved in the scene sort of here in New York. And growing up, I did not know, anything about what harm reduction was. Even though, like, obviously being a drug user, you practice harm reduction all the time without realizing it. Just like, like, oh, somebody go watch Homegirl over there. Like, that's fucking harm reduction. Like, making sure your friends don't use alone is like, I mean, to me, like one of the most important, most vital things you can do, because in my experience with like my friends who've died, it's not usually, I mean, it is oftentimes the heroin addicts that are dying, but a lot of the time it is circumstantial death that's like totally an accident that could have been prevented if somebody else was there. So I'm really passionate about like especially stuff around using like duster and like inhalants, not like letting people do that shit by themselves. I've had multiple friends die from using duster or other nitrous, other forms of like, I guess duster's not nitrous. Duster's like the inhalant. I mean, whatever. It all kind of feels the same to me. I don't know. I'm not a fucking expert, but yeah, shit's fucking dangerous. Anything that can make you fall and bump your head or drown or pass out. Like, people really don't keep a close eye on people they think that are doing drugs, like Care Bear kind of drugs. And it's like, you really don't have to be doing heroin or something that could easily be laced with fentanyl to kick it, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely like no drug education around like nitrous or like nitrates in general. I just saw like a post, and like I knew about this from like my PNP days, but like the, you know, like mixing Viagra and poppers thing. Like there's just like a lot of stuff that people don't, that doesn't come second nature to people, that like can really fuck you up. And not to mention, like, it was way too late for me by the time I realized that there was narcotics in Whippets. Like, I was fully, like, you know, using 600 Whippets a day by the time I, like, realized that I should not be doing it. But yeah, but there's a lot of, like, interesting harm reduction stuff that you've found in Austin, including your friend. You want to talk about the vending machines?
Sure, yeah. So the project is NICE, Narcan in Case of Emergency, and it's vending machines in downtown Austin. I don't know exactly where they are. They're free. Yeah, they're free. There's one I think at like Swan Dive, and there's one at like. People can find it on Instagram on the NICE project. I don't know what their Instagram is. ATX NICE project ATX, is that it? I don't remember, but they are really cool, do really good stuff, and are working on setting up more vending machines around, which is sick.
Hell yeah. In terms of, yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about like different sort of like creative interventions around like overdose stuff and harm reduction for like since we've known each other. And I know that you also have like a particularly interesting take on like broader social justice issues, including like prison reform. And we've talked a lot about sort of like sex crimes and things that would typically get someone put on like the sex offender list. And I know you've like kind of been thinking through different ways to like care for people beyond like that system. I don't know if you want to share at all like some of your project ideas or like or kind of dreams for that like restructuring of society.
So I've been wanting to start. I have so many things that I'm like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then I'm like focusing on one thing at a time. But I've been wanting to start a prison writing sort of group of like hot girls, particularly who write to prisoners, and start sort of like not necessarily like romantic relationships or anything, but giving prisoners an outlet to express themselves sexually that's not going to get them punished. And just sort of recognizing that being restricted from touching your own body is a human rights violation, and being kept from your significant other is a human rights violation, and, you know, not being able to consensually like fuck each other is a human rights violation. Like, these are your, you know, this is your body, this is your, you know, it's the only thing that you have. And, you know, also recognizing all of the research that goes into like what sexual release does for a person, especially a person with violent tendencies, mental health issues, drug issues. Having a safe and consensual way to express your sexuality is vital to any sexual person. And I think that in an ideal world, you know, and it's not even like in an ideal world. Like there are prison systems in other countries that allow sexual contact through, I mean, any woman that wants to visit a prisoner. And there are prisons that are prisoner run, actually, and I think it's Mexico or somewhere in Central America, where they have like full blown like sleepovers with their significant others, like kind of lawless conjugal visits. And what that does for the prisoners is like insane. Like what it gives people like so much hope and so much desire to get out. And it also, you know, is a way to relieve so much of your stress and so much of your anger, and kind of forget about the fact that you are actually living within a bubble, and that your goal is to not be in that bubble anymore, and to like, you know, your head gets really caught up in the politics and what's going on around you, and being able to see your partner, or you know, talk to your sweetie or whatever is, or just fucking jack your meat, is like so fucking important for I mean, a sense of self, a sense of hope, a sense of everything. Like it's so much tied into just being a fucking human being.
For real, if people want to get in touch with you about this project, or like reach out about like connecting over some of this stuff, what's the best way to hit you up?
I guess Instagram DMs, like I'll see them. I don't know if I'll respond because I'm focusing on like other projects right now. But like eventually, like I will get around to doing it. It's just something that like kind of requires some free time, and especially like I need to sit down and research like what I'm actually allowed to send to prisoners. And it's different state by state, and you know, I have more radical ideas, particularly about writing to sex offenders and people that are on the registry, and giving those people like sexual hope about having a future that involves sexual contact. Because I mean, can you fucking imagine being in prison after committing a sex crime and being like, no one's ever gonna want to touch me again? Like, what are your options? You know, like they're not gonna sterilize you, but they're basically gonna sterilize. I mean, they're going to put you in a situation where you don't really have a lot of options, and it perpetuates the cycle. I mean, similar to like everything, drug crimes, like everything. But you know, having a sense of like sexual identity, even though you're a sex criminal, I think is important and valid. And just because you committed a crime doesn't mean you're not a human with human needs and basic needs that need to be met and will be met consensually or not.
Yeah, also, I mean, just like an earmark note or footnote to that is just like the things that have been considered sex like if you look at the historical list of what's been considered a sex crime in America, like it'll have you questioning the whole structure. And the fact that that like we accept that we just deal with like social problems by throwing people away. I think there's a lot of research that just shows that is not addressing the root of all these issues. But yeah, it's so awesome to hear you talk about this stuff. And I'm hoping to see big things coming out of the Brynn Michaels canon, the anti-sex offender list canon. Do we want to play a couple songs before we close out?
Sure.
You want to tell us about any particular band?
I'm looking. Okay, so Bandit is a very serious favorite from Philly. They're playing at St. Vitus, I think next month. I don't remember who they're playing with, but they have I think it's a single. I think that they released it on Spotify under like the wrong Bandit like artist, because whatever. It's not coming up, but I think it's their latest single. Look, when I click on Bandit, like there's a page for them, but then there's this page which is like another band, or I don't know what to call that. But
Damn.
yeah, so I'm gonna message them about that, I guess. But
They're the homies.
yeah, well, no, I don't know them like.
Hit up Bandit. Hit up Brynn Michaels.
No, whatever. I talked to one of them on Instagram. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, I'm gonna play this song. All right.
We are listening to Bandit. Whoa, hell yeah. Well, I just want to give a big thanks to our girl Brynn for coming through Radio Bonita on Dirty Tuesday. Any last thoughts before we close out and introduce our next guest, Emily Allen?
No.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. It's so interesting to hear you talk about the variety of stream of consciousness things that I asked you about. Thank you for being so open to being on here, and I hope that you'll stick around.